I spent another year in Stardew Valley at the mercy of coin flips and a wheel of chance to decide my playthrough. Hey everyone, it's Skippy, and welcome back to my very special Stardew Valley challenge. This time around, we'll be picking back up in Year 2. If you haven't watched Year 1, I highly recommend you do that to see the original path I was set on. I'll put the link in the video right now and also in the description too. Anyway, you've been warned and there will be spoilers going forward, starting now. So let's go over a quick recap of the rules. Every distinct choice and dialogue option must be decided upon a coin flip. Coin flip consists of heads or tails, which is equal to yes or no, option 1 or option 2, left or right, respectively, for multiple different things. The wheel of chance is to be used for daily gifts and choices that have more than 2 options. Everything else must go through a coin flip. I have to continue to make 50% of my income from my chosen profession from Year 1, which ended up being foraging. I must continue my coin flipped chosen relationship from Year 1 too, which is Haley. I get 1 coin flip redo once per year, and we all know how that goes. As for my goals, they're quite adventurous this time. I need to have a balance of 5 times the amount I made in Year 1 of my total income earned. I need to get everyone to at least 5 hearts of friendship. I need to give a liked or a loved gift to a villager every single day with 90% overall accuracy. I must finish the raccoon storyline, enter Mr. Cheese Place, and I must finish Ginger Island, which I've never done before. So with that being said, let's get into Year 2 as it is quite an interesting tale. Day 1 of Year 2 started off very standard. Kent came by my farm to introduce himself, and I spent some time cleaning up some of the stray logs and rocks on my land. I finally had my 8-heart cutscene with Haley, which I thought was really cute. Love the snapshots of her enjoying the cows and tumbling off. My first daily gift receiver for the year was Harvey, and I thought I was giving him a dandelion, per the wiki's recommendation, but I accidentally gave him mixed seeds. But I didn't notice this until I was editing the video, so I was convinced that the Wikipedia lied to me. I should have known better. I spent the rest of the day planting whatever mixed seeds and carrot seeds I had, planted a peach tree in my greenhouse, and called it a night. Day 2, I woke up to a letter from Marnie letting me know that she was now selling pets at her shop, and I definitely had an empty bowl to fill. I made sure to visit with all my animals for that farming XP, put some tree fertilizer on my new greenhouse project, and cut down all my mahogany trees and replant them. I spent the day gathering more forageables to make more seeds, and I accepted a quest at the Help Wanted board since the coin gave me a heads. In my last video, someone commented that I should check behind the bookseller, and I found a prize ticket. I collected a new cap from Mayor Lewis's house, and then I spent the evening fishing in hopes of leveling up my skill as soon as possible. The next morning, I spent some time adding more tree fertilizer on my outdoor and indoor trees. I made a quick trip over to the secret woods for some hardwood, and I finally had Robin upgrade my house. The wizard was my lucky gift receiver for the day, and he loved the void essence I gave him. When I got home, I found a truffle on my farm, thanks to my little pig, and I finished Robin's hardwood quest and then dropped the truffle into the community center. The Junimos jumped for joy, finally happy that the entire place had been fixed, which is kind of weird because then they leave, so I don't know why they'd be happy about being evicted, but I guess it makes sense. The next day I awoke to Marnie requesting a cave carrot for her goat, and then I collected all my shrooms in my mushroom corner for what would be the first time this year. I then gave Kent a daffodil for the daily gift, and it was actually his birthday, so score! After that, I got the cutscene where Krobus and the dwarf have a little scuffle, and then I went back to my farm and destroyed the rest of my mushroom area and began preparations for the new area into the late night. On day 5, I received about a dozen new recipes in the mail since I had finished the bulletin board bundle. I stood for a very long time in my now empty mushroom field and thought about how maybe what I had done was a mistake. Later in the evening, I began spacing my logs out, but it wasn't working the way I wanted, and then I remembered I needed to give Elliot a gift, so I ran into town and triggered the community center cutscene, which is honestly so funny to see it at night because it's so dark and for some reason everyone just decides to pile in at like 9:30 p.m. Mayor Lewis thanked me for filling everyone's requests, and then Morris crashed the party, and the coin was in my favor because it had Pierre fight him the old-fashioned way. This is literally the single best thing about Pierre. You cannot tell me otherwise. And in my quest to find Elliot, I went into the saloon only to trigger the cutscene with Gus complaining about Pam not paying her bill, once again like super late at night. Pam did not like the answer the coin gave me, and then I was finally able to give Elliot the daily gift of a duck feather, which he loved, and on my way home, I triggered the Shane cutscene. Oh my gosh, you guys, I just wanted to do my thing and go home. And then I finally made it back to my farm where I passed out after putting down my mushroom stumps. The next day, I woke up to my newly upgraded house, and I decided to put all the fish I had recently caught and saved into my fridge. I collected some of the honey in the morning, and then got to work on fertilizing the trees next to my shroom stump area. I triggered the cutscene with the wizard about his ex-wife, and then I got a cutscene with Robin where she asked if I had ever made anything with wood, and the coin said no, which is so humiliating and just a flat-out lie. But Robin was cool about it and gave me some blueprints. And then immediately after, I got the cutscene for the 4-poster bed where Robin and Demetrius are arguing if it's fashionable or impractical, and of course the coin had me say the 4 posts were inefficient, making Demetrius happy and Robin upset. Ugh. Haley loved the gift I gave her for today as the daily gift receiver, and then I spent the rest of the day foraging, gathering hardwood, and clearing out the area next to my greenhouse in preparation for mystic trees. On day 7, I finally decided to go into my coop and collect the insane amount of eggs I had, and realized shortly after I had a lot of eggs, and I was gonna have to do something about that soon. I gave Caroline the daily gift, and then she asked me if my new kitchen was for cooking or just for looks, and the coin gave me a heads, which thankfully meant I wasn't lying again. Later that evening, I got the cutscene with Linus and received his special bait and the recipe, and then shortly after, I blew up the quarry to gain all the wonderful ores and stone, and something I realized while doing this is that the bombs literally light up the area that they explode for a brief moment, and I found that detail to be really cool because I just really never noticed it before. The next morning, Jody surprised me at my door by inviting me over to her house to have dinner, where I have to be the responsible party for bringing the food, which is kind of a weird request. I harvested the moss from my trees in my greenhouse, and I made some minor adjustments to stuff on my farm, and moved my house back a square to make room for a better road. And I also moved the pet bowl too. I accepted the juicy bug quest at the community board, and then later I was waiting for Sam to go inside his house so I could rummage in the trash when Leah literally walked around the corner at the same time. At least I got an iron bar out of it. I spent the rest of the day foraging, and I know I haven't mentioned this yet, but I was having a really hard time finding dandelions to make mixed seeds. Like, it was a really bad spring. On day 9, I had a pitiful amount of mixed seeds that were ready to harvest, and my first batch of mushrooms were ready too, though not nearly what I wanted them to be. I got notified there was a train passing through, and I waited for it patiently and received some geodes. I fished in the lake for Jody's largemouth bass. Later that afternoon, I figured that the best way to get my farming to level 10 was to plant 50 potatoes, since they give you a great amount of quick XP. In the evening, I made my way over to Sam's house for the family dinner, and later that night, I continued cutting down the trees near my greenhouse. I woke up to having my maple syrup and honey ready to harvest, and then I decided to take all the fish that I'd been storing and turn them into sashimi for gift giving to random people. I foraged throughout the valley looking for more dandelions, and I also harvested more hardwood too, which I had been trying to do almost every single day. Later that night, I planted more mixed seeds, and I put some fruit trees I bought earlier in the greenhouse. On day 11, I woke up to my full-size house, and I spent the early morning reorganizing some of my furniture to make it look nice. My trees down at my stump farm were fully grown, which made me happy because I had been panicking if they'd ever grow the way I planted them. I then collected my plethora of eggs again and cut down some mahogany trees. I turned in Emily's request for an apricot, and I also turned in Clint's request for an iron bar. In the sewer, I finally caught the mutant carp legendary fish, hoping it would push me over the edge to level 10, but it did not. And then I found the mysterious dark talisman in the creepy sewer tunnel. I gave Shane a gift on his way home, and I went to bed. The next day, I collected my dried mushrooms, finding out that I probably need to make more dehydrators soon. Later that morning, I stumbled on Emily's cutscene where the poor bird flies into her window, but she's such a kind soul that she nurses it back to health. And then at Pierre's, I bought a bunch of peach and pomegranate trees for my greenhouse. I finally decided to head down to Willie's to get the boat cutscene, and then he asked me if I would be willing to help. The coin said, nah, I'll pass, which was really funny. Can you imagine if Willie was like, oh, okay, and then he closed up the door and you could never get back in? I placed down some new wallpaper and flooring in my house, and then I added my new fruit trees to the greenhouse. I got a notification that the egg festival had began, and I flipped the coin to see if I would be going. The coin decided yes, so I chatted with everyone in town, and then flipped again to see if I'd be participating in the egg hunt, which was also a yes. I expertly destroyed the kids and Abigail in the egg hunt, and went home that night to plant some mixed seeds before going to bed. The next day, I hit the traveling cart seller and purchased a blue shell, which I was very happy to find for Mr. Cheese Quest because I didn't have one and you can only get them in summer. Not thinking, I took it to the dark tunnel next to the bus because I'm just dumb. And then I realized I had to go up to the train station where it informed me I would need to put 10 beets into Mayor Lewis's fridge, so I headed over to the desert to purchase them. However, I forgot they only grow in fall and my greenhouse was pretty stacked with trees, but I had a plan. Later that evening, I went to find Marnie to give her the daily gift, which she loved, and then I gave everyone at the saloon some sashimi to raise their friendship as well. That night, I created some indoor garden pots and added the beets with some super speed grow to get them as soon as possible. And yes, I am well aware I could have just used the greenhouse in between the trees, but I thought the pots were cooler. Though they do technically take more of my time, but oh well. On day 15, when I got outside, I saw my potatoes were done, which very quickly raised my farming skill to level 10. And to make things even better, some of my mushrooms were ready and were reflecting the oak trees next to them, with the majority of them being chanterelles. Today was the first day of the desert festival, so I flipped the coin and it said yes, I would be attending. I made my first stop at the food shack and spun the wheel until I got smell of the sea buffs. I flipped to get my outfit changed by Emily, and it was honestly so cute. I love this festival so much. But my luck was starting to run dry when the coin decided I was not ready to own a free cactus, which made me so sad. And during the race, I was rooting for Sting King, but he got beat out by Shoe Biscuit. Typical. Evelyn had a booth on this day, and I couldn't help myself but buy her cookies wallpaper, and then I spent more of my desert money on mixed flower seeds. Later that evening, I turned in a prize ticket to Mayor Lewis's house and also flipped a coin for Gus's famous omelet quest. I placed my new cookie wallpaper in my room, which I literally do not regret at all, and then I went to sleep. That night, the missing bundle was unlocked at Joja Mart's dilapidated building, and I got to choose between Artisan and Agriculturist perk for farming level 10. The coin decisively gave me tails, which meant I was not going to get the 40% gold benefit from my dried mushrooms. I was not happy with this outcome, to say the least. On day 16, it was raining, and I was finally able to create more spring wild seeds. I collected my many mushrooms yet again, and I made sure to make my way down to the east side of the beach. The mysterious old fisherman asked me if I wanted to buy the mermaid's pendant, and luckily the coin gave me a yes. Today was the second day of the Calico Desert Festival, and the coin also gave me a heads up that I would be returning to enjoy a day of fun in the sun. I was finally able to get myself a cactus from the Cactus Man, and Emily gave me a new outfit, but I'm gonna be honest, I was not so thrilled about this one. I accepted a quest for Skull Cavern for Omnigeodes, and I spent some time digging around in there and blowing stuff up, but ultimately, I didn't find enough of them, but I was still able to cash in some calico eggs, so it wasn't a total bust. The next day, the 5 batteries I needed to fix Willie's boat were ready from yesterday's storm, and I continued to add more mixed seeds to my land. The coin once again gave me the go-ahead to visit the desert, but this time I was not going to be having the chef make me any food. I got a new outfit at Emily's again, and the scholar asked me if I wanted to play a little game. The coin said yes, and the wheel gave me Clint for question 1, which is, who runs the saloon in Pelican Town? Honestly, you guys, this was the 3rd day in a row that I got heads to play this game, and literally the wrong answer every single time. I went into the caverns before making very little progress and headed back to the festival, where I spent whatever remaining calico eggs I had on the calico statue because I liked it. Later that evening, my iridium bars were ready, and soon I'd be able to head to Ginger Island. Day 18, my first batch of beets were ready to put into Mayor Lewis's fridge. I collected some more hardwood in the secret woods, and then I dropped off the Cape Carrot at Marnie's, whose goat was very thankful. I also took this moment to purchase the black cat that I was supposed to get for free at the beginning of this playthrough, and I used an online black cat name generator, and the first one it gave me was Jet Emberclaw, but it didn't fit, so I just named him Emberclaw, which I honestly love. 10 out of 10 name. Later that day, I finally plucked up the courage and gave Haley the mermaid pendant as an act of betrothal, successfully winning her heart. She said we'd be wed in 3 days and that she'd take care of it all. But I had to figure out what I'd be wearing to the wedding, so I decided to look up some recipes and headed to my sewing machine. But I realized at that moment that I didn't have any cloth, just wool, and in order to make the loom, you need pine tar, which I didn't have any of that either, so I placed down like 4 tappers, even though I knew I probably wasn't gonna get it in time. Like, I knew I wasn't gonna get it in time, but I still did it anyway. Oh, and I literally went like 4 days without giving someone the daily gift. First you, Calico Desert Festival, distracting me with your joyous festivities and free clothes and free cactuses. The next morning, it was raining again, and I collected the various types of items ready to harvest on my farm, including more mushrooms. I gave Sebastian some sashimi to raise my hearts with him since he loves it and was on the bottom of my list, and it's a rare sight to see him outside of his basement. I then purchased a void egg from Krobus for 5,000 gold because I knew I'd need void mayonnaise to finish the wizard's ex-wife quest. And while I was there, I finally decided I was going to use my once per year reroll to reroll my last farming perk. So I paid 10,000 gold to get the opportunity to try again. Later that evening at the beach, I triggered a cutscene with Elliot, and the wheel informed him that sci-fi was my favorite genre. I fished for the rest of the evening and gave everyone I saw sashimi to gain their affection. And later that night, I removed a section of my tree farm for a special project. And then finally, when I went to bed, I flipped the coin again for my level 10 farming perk, and it gave me tails again. I was stuck with agriculturist, which is such a huge blow. It's basically the difference between making a lot of money and maybe barely making my goal. On day 20, it was raining again. I continued clearing out the area next to my house, and then I went up to Robin's to move my greenhouse there. I accepted a help wanted request to get rid of the invasive crabs in the mines, and then I went to give Sam his daily gift. I got a cutscene with Jody and Kent though, where the wheel told me lie and say that I asked for popcorn, which Kent really didn't appreciate the lie, of course. And then I wasn't even good enough friends with Sam to give him his daily gift in his room, and he probably wasn't going to come out because it was raining. I went to the mines for the quest, but wasn't able to find enough crabs, and then I went to the saloon to give everyone sashimi. It just so happened to be Shane's birthday, so that was a win. Honestly, it was the only win at all today. The only win. That was the only win. The next morning, I woke to find myself standing next to Haley at the altar in the middle of Pelican Town. I was so mad because I didn't even get a chance to change my outfit. I guess it's been a long time since I got married in this game. I didn't realize it was just gonna do it the next morning I woke up. I thought I had time to walk in it down. Good thing I didn't put all that effort into making a wedding outfit like I originally wanted to. I gave Haley her favorite gift to celebrate our marriage, and then I went off to my farm duties. I purchased a couple books from the bookseller, one to help my fishing skill on my pursuit for level 10. And I finally put the beets in Mayor Lewis's fridge. Later, I walked into a cutscene with Evelyn where she gave me one of her homemade cookies, and I am so freaking glad the coin gave me heads to say they're delicious. I literally could not fathom having to tell this sweet little old lady I hated her cookies. That evening, I knocked down some of my mahogany trees, and then I finished my new path next to my greenhouse. Day 22, I had some shrooms to pick, and another batch of my forageables were ready to harvest too. I visited Robin again and upgraded my coop because I was tired of having to manually feed them. I didn't even want the chickens anymore since I had a bazillion eggs, but it's not in my heart to sell animals in my game, so I was stuck with them. If you know me, you know me. The coin toss convinced George to listen to his doctor, and I spent a long time trying to find Mayor Lewis to give him the daily gift, and eventually I found him in his house, where I started looking for him. At least he didn't hate it, and I got the networking achievement. That night I planted my new seeds in my old shroom area, and I went to sleep next to Haley in our cute cookie-themed room. Gus woke me up with his burning pot of chili and gifted me a jukebox for my house, which doesn't really do anything for me since I record the game without any music. I harvested the rest of my forageables and visited a passing train once again to get a bunch of geodes. I swear I've never had this good train RNG. I also took the time to fish for the missing necklace at the spa, and then I tried catching the legendary fish at the mountain lake for like the third time with food that upped my fishing skill, except I didn't read the Wikipedia properly where it said it had to be raining. Later, I crafted and placed more dehydrators and put all my fish into the fridge to make more sashimi. Day 24, I collected my daily shrooms and I got notified that the flower dance had begun in the forest. So I went inside and dressed up for the special occasion. But when I was asked if I wanted to dance with Haley, the coin said no, which was disappointing. So I watched her dance with Alex instead. Next time I think I'll just ask everyone until the coin says yes, regardless who it is. I wonder how that would pan out if it wasn't Haley and what'd she think though. But then again, I did see her dance with Alex, so I feel like we'd be even at this point. The next morning I gathered some hardwood in the secret woods, and then I went to give Evelyn the daily gift, and ended up finding her in the community center. I spent the rest of the day trying to level up my combat skill in Skull Cavern using a monster musk, which did in fact give me tons more enemies. Oh, and a dinosaur egg. On day 26, I collected my dried mushrooms and added a few more decorative items to my and Haley's house. And then I had that sad cutscene with Shane, which always makes me sad. While I was at Marnie's, I purchased 4 new piggies after running a poll on my YouTube channel about whether or not truffles were foraging, farming, or both. Later that afternoon, I completed Willie's boat for repair, and then I purchased a pond from Robin's, placing it in my animal field for the time being. My moss farm was ready to harvest, and then that night I added some more decorative and useful additions to my farm. On day 27, I awoke to some more of Pam's prescription medication in my mailbox, and I collected my daily dried mushrooms. My void chicken had finally hatched inside the coop, and another train came through the valley, though it only gave me a few stone this time. Since it was raining for what would probably be the last time in spring, I ate some fishing bonus food and tried to catch the legendary fish at the lake, but unfortunately I was not successful. Sam was my daily gift receiver, but I wasn't able to give him any since I had already given him 2 gifts during the week. I decided to count this though for my gift percentage. Day 28, the last day of spring. I had a decent amount of stuff to collect. After passing the traveling cart seller like 3 times, I finally decided to buy the sturgeon from her, so I wouldn't have to worry about wasting my time trying to catch one in summer so I can make caviar. I gave Demetrius the daily gift, which he gladly accepted, and then I spent the rest of the day in Skull Cavern trying to level up my combat skill once again. I passed out at 2 AM, and then spring was officially over. Day 1 of summer, I ran around and pet my animals and then collected my massive amount of mushrooms that were ready. I continued to give sashimi around to most residents to boost their hearts with me, which was going pretty well. The coin toss gave me fragments from the past for the bulletin board request, and I gave Vincent the daily gift, which he hated, and let me tell you, that is going to become a problem later. The next day, I put all the fish I had in my fridge to make even more sashimi, and then I visited Clint to crack open some geodes. I fished for the rest of the evening to try and level up my skills so that way I could get into the secret skill room ASAP, which was taking a lot longer than I had clearly anticipated. The next morning, I collected my dried mushrooms and paid a visit to the secret woods for some hardwood. I continued gifting villagers and Abigail, who was the daily gift receiver. Later that night, I continued to decorate the children's room with some accents I had picked up along the way. I hope Haley doesn't think this is too presumptuous. Day 32 was interesting, because when I went to give Emily the daily gift, I got a cutscene where she really sings or dances her heart out to me, and luckily the wheel gave me chat option 1, which let her know that it was an amazing show, which it was. The only issue is that after that lovely display, I gave her sashimi for the daily gift, and she hated it, so it doesn't count. On the beach, I had the 2-heart cutscene with Alex, where he expresses his desire to be a pro griffball player, and luckily for him, the coin allowed me to give my warmest regards to his dreams. Later that day, I took off to the Gem Sea and landed on Ginger Island for the first time. I followed the path, collected a walnut, and found the mysterious boy in the treehouse, but I wasn't able to speak with him just yet. I followed the cute, yet very deceptive flame ball to the volcano mines and passed out that night without making it to the top. In the dead of night, a witch visited my coop, which meant I wasted 5,000 gold buying the void egg from Krobus. On day 33, I took care of my mushroom dehydrators, and then Haley gave me a star drop as a symbol of our love. The Community Help Wanted board did receive a yes from the coin, so I headed up to the mines to eliminate red slimes. I continued to disperse my plethora of sashimi to the other villagers, and then made some more room for wild seeds on my farm. That night I hit level 10 combat, and the coin decided on Defender, which would come in handy. The next morning, I found a blue shell in my mail, along with Demetrius's request for a pufferfish. I chopped some of my mahogany trees down and pet my animals. I realized at this point that I quite frankly had way too many dang eggs, and I couldn't sell them, so I decided to set up one of those community egg-sharing dispensaries, so that way the villagers could take any eggs they wanted from my farm for free. I hope they appreciate it, as they should. Later that afternoon, I gave Kent some milk for the daily gift, but he hated it, because it reminded him of the army. I spent the afternoon fishing for Demetrius's pufferfish, and then I went fishing in the caverns for an ice pip and lava eel. On day 35, I said hello to my wife Haley, and then proceeded to store my fish in the fridge. I headed into town, and the Help Wanted board request was a grape for Demetrius, but the coin said no. I turned one of my void eggs into void mayonnaise, and I gave it to the goblin guarding the witch's lair. He folded quite easily and let me through. I obtained the wizard's magic ink and teleported off to him, finishing his quest to thwart his ex-wife. Or rather, to get a glimpse of her life after the divorce. And then he showed me the new features I can add to my farm, like Junima huts and obelisks. The next day, I finally triggered the cutscene with Caroline because I wanted her tea saplings, and I forgot I actually had to walk into her greenhouse to get it. The wheel was not in my favor as it chose chat option 4, not as good as my farm, but Caroline wasn't fazed. And when she offered me a cup of tea, the coin said no, which I was like, oh my god, I'm so rude. But Caroline was chill and she opened up to me about how it was relaxing in there and how she gets to daydream. It was a vibe, and probably the only thing keeping her sane living with Pierre and Abigail. I also gave her the daily gift of a fish taco, which she loved. Later that afternoon, the community bulletin board coin flip landed on Juicy Bugs, again. I spent the rest of the day in the volcano caves trying to make it to the top, and I found quite a few goodies on my way up. I retrieved my free prismatic shard and then upgraded my galaxy sword, obtaining bug killer perk, which wasn't completely worthless. On day 37, I received mail from Caroline with a recipe on how to make her tea saplings. I collected some maple syrup and harvested my many mushrooms. Later, I made a trip to the desert to give Sandy a flower, which she loves like all the season's flowers, so they're pretty easy to give her. Just gotta remember to go over there and give it to her. I also gave the dragon a solar essence, and a note popped out telling me to check the pile of lumber next to my house. Back in the valley, I gave Sam the daily gift of a fruit cactus, which he loved, and then later that evening, I caught a pike, which pushed me to level 10 in fishing. The coin chose Pirate as my perk, which is really the only good possibility here, since it doubles my chance to find treasure, and the other perk is that fish sell for 50% more, but I can't sell them, so it's useless. And now I could finally access the secret door south of my farm with all of my skills maxed out to level 10. Yay! It only took like 149 days or something like that. Day 38, my coffee beans were ready, which was going to come in handy very quickly. And I finally entered the secret mastery cave, excited to get my first special skill. Except, getting level 10 in all skills only opens the door. Now I had to level up again in order to start the process of getting a perk. So I left, feeling a little defeated and definitely behind in my schedule, because there was no guarantee I'd get the foraging mastery the first time anyway. So I left and started to cut down trees to gain XP all over again. Later that night, I began to clear out the area for a special project I had planned. Oh, and I forgot to give Pam the daily gift, go figure. The next morning, I had some forageable crops ready to harvest, so I plucked them and made more. Even though these crops weren't as important as year one, they would still help me in the long run. I coin tossed on if I'd be participating in this year's luau, and the coin said yes. I chose to put in the ice pip I had caught a few days prior, and the governor absolutely adored it, which was a huge win for me because I would receive maximum friendship increase with everyone. On day 40, I spoke with Haley outside the house, who said she watered some of the crops. Bless her heart. Then I collected some purple shrooms from my growing mushroom tree farm, and took a good look at my earnings. Yikes, I needed to pick up the pace. Later, I had my 2-heart cutscene with Maru, where her dad assumes that my married to Haley self is going to try and persuade his impressionable single genius daughter to stay in Stardew Valley instead of reaching incredible academic heights. Yeah. Anyway, the coin was not on my side because I wanted to expose him. After that awkward science experiment, I gave Maru the daily gift, which she loved. Then I met up with Robin to move my pond in front of my greenhouse. I also moved my shipping bin too. Then another cutscene, but this time with Leah when I entered her home. The wheel was in my favor as it did not choose the creepy option, and then the coin toss had me choose for her to embark on marketing her art toward the village, which honestly, I don't think that's a great idea, but oh well. And thanks to Caroline, I lined my pond with tea saplings that evening. The next morning it was raining and I collected tons of mushrooms. I entered Pierre's that afternoon and got yet another cutscene with Abigail and her mom, who was very furious at her daughter's attitude. Which is sort of awkward because I'm just listening at the door and then hide when Abigail hears me. I gave her the daily gift of an amethyst and she loved it. I foraged a little bit at the beach and then I got another cutscene. Seriously, you guys, top tier luau ingredient will do this to you. Shane was on the cliffside with about 21 bears next to him, barely conscious. This is a very pivotal moment in his character development, and the coin failed me so hard with Jad option 3 of, "It would be a sin," in which Shane replies with, "But Skippy, I'm an atheist." Anyway, 20 plus beers in, and I took him over to Dr. Harvey's to rest up. That evening, I added more pathways to my farm. Day 42 was the day of Black Sun. Just kidding, it's Green Rain, which means it's moss collection day. I spoke to Haley, who wasn't as worried about it as she was during the first year, and then I headed out, pumped on coffee to collect as many pieces of moss I could. And as you could probably guess, I did not give Abigail the daily gift because I was too busy getting the moss. By the end of the evening, I had gotten 803 fiber and 363 moss. Let's go. The next morning, Shane appeared at my doorstep to apologize and gave me thanks for helping him out. The chat wheel kept the tone serious, and I said he needed a wake-up call. I started collecting fruit from my greenhouse for the first time. I visited Caroline in her greenhouse later and gave her the daily gift, which she liked. The coin chose aquatic overpopulation for the community board request, and then later I started to line my greenhouse with preserve jars. I also took this time to place my wine in the cask in my new basement that I had Robin build earlier in the month, and I spent the evening collecting wood and XP. Then I said goodnight to my cat and Haley. On day 44, I pet all my animals and then collected my plethora of mushrooms and did other odd jobs around the farm. I placed more mushroom logs and some other pathways too. I also placed paths next to the mushroom logs because I was tired of saplings getting my way almost every single time I harvested them. This was a very much a work from home day. The next morning, I had some forageables ready to harvest, and I planted some new ones down as well too. I went into town where I found Haley eavesdropping on Penny and the kids about how expensive their textbooks were. I didn't know it then, but this was going to come back and haunt me for the rest of this year. Elliot enjoyed the daily gift, and then I hopped onto the boat down to the island, where it was raining. I finally obtained my 10th walnut and was able to speak with the strange boy in the treehouse. The coin prompted me to ask him about his parents, and he became very sad and told me he was a bird. Then the coin asked me how he could speak if he was a bird, and his parrot friend answered that question very quickly. I rummaged around the island some more to collect materials and more walnuts. I tried my hand at the music game in the cave, failed multiple times, and I left really angry about it, and I passed out later that night. On day 46, I spawned back on the mainland, and I had a lot of stuff ready to harvest, including nearly an entire crop field of forageables. I entered my coop for the first time in a long while to find that I had a new baby lizard, and a bazillion more eggs.
Oh my god.
I then planted more wild seeds and collected my jams and more fruit. It was actually a really good system, because it takes 3 days for the fruit tree to become full, and 3 days to process the jam. I visited the bookseller and purchased Way of the Wind and Horse the Book to boost my speed. I spent the rest of the day gifting sashimi and cutting down trees for wood and XP. The next morning it was raining and I spent the first part collecting shrooms. Then I hit up Caroline's place and gave her the daily gift. I immediately went down to the island and tried to find more walnuts successfully and unsuccessfully. I worked my way through the mines to find materials and walnuts, and then I passed out at 2 a.m. On day 48, Haley surprised me with cookies for breakfast, which is honestly like the best gift ever, so I gave her an extra kiss. I made my way over to the secret woods and gathered some hardwood, and then I coin flipped if I'd participate in the fish derby at the river, to which the coin said yes. Later that afternoon, Haley and I had a nice chat about an idea she had for a cakewalk. Clearly I am clueless, so she explains, and the coin failed me miserably when it had me choose yes, begrudgingly, to her request, which Haley was annoyed with my attitude. If I didn't show up with a chocolate cake in town the next day, I was in serious trouble. I rummaged through my stash to look for a chocolate cake, and I stupidly had eaten them all in the first year, and I didn't get the recipe from the TV show either in the last winter. Ugh. I went back down to the river hoping that one of the prizes would be a chocolate cake. It wasn't. That evening I went to the saloon and had my cutscene with Elliot where we shared a drink together. Chatwheel had me toast a pelican town, and Elliot seemed to like that, which is better than toasting to his demise. The next day, I received a request for truffle oil from the mayor, and I collected some batteries and mushrooms from the farm. At the traveling cart lady, I bought the Haley portrait for 30,000 gold, so that way I could apologize to her from our disastrous conversation the day before. I also went over to Clint's, cracking open everything I had to hope for a cake. But the best thing of the day was the fact that I had leveled my skill. So I was off to the Mastery Cave, where I put all the options into a chat wheel, and the odds were not in my favor because it ultimately gave me farming mastery. So I received the Iridium Scythe, among other perks that were pretty useless to me. That evening I gave Haley some extra love and I put her portrait above our dresser, which honestly looks so styling. On day 50, I checked in with Haley, who didn't seem like she was angry at me anymore. I received a wonderful gift from the wizard of a fire quartz, and at the community board, the coin gave me the curious substance request. So I'd have to go get that ectoplasm from the ghosts. I popped a monster musk and was easily swarmed by mobs in the mines, but unfortunately, I didn't find the substance yet. Also, I did not give Gus the daily gift. The next morning, I harvested some coffee beans to grind and pulled up my mushrooms. Also, this is like the 3rd day in a row that it rained, and I didn't have to worry about not having the chocolate cake for Haley, because her event takes place on a nice day in the town. I added more logs to my second area, and then checked on my animals. I spent some time at the saloon looking for my chocolate cake, and as if to mock me, Gus had a pink cake for sale. I caught Sebi down at the beach and gave him some sashimi, which he did love. When going to give Maru her daily gift, I got a cutscene between Robin and Demetrius about the technical definition of a tomato, and unfortunately the coin sided with her husband again. Maru loved her gift though, and I hit the achievement of popular. At this point, I had about 12 more people to raise to level 5. On day 52, Krobus sent me mail with a new crafting recipe for the dark sign. Thanks, buddy. While redecorating, I remembered I needed to check behind my wood pile for Mr. Cheese's secret, and then I purchased a rabbit down at Marnie's. Later that afternoon, I visited Sandy, and I also unlocked the secret room behind the bouncer, where now I could gamble at my leisure. Except I wasn't very good at it, which resembles my personal life a little bit too much, so I left after I won a tiny bit. I explored Skull Tavern and managed to find the ectoplasm on level 2. I offered it to the wizard that evening, and in return he gave me some cash. That night I continued to expand my pathways near my dehydrators. The next morning I was greeted with the recipe for the mini obelisk from the wizard, which I'd be building soon. I provided Marnie with the daily gift, which she loved, and I also gave Jas something too, since she was lower on my list. Later that day I got the cutscene with Sam and Sebastian in his room where they're jamming out and crafting some mad tunes. The wheel chose option 1, which is cheerful pop music. Sebastian did not seem so pleased with that choice. I tried giving his brother a present, but that kid hates everything. I purchased some mixed seeds from Krobus and collected my prize ticket, redeeming the magical Stardrop tea. That evening, I visited Ginger Island and ran around the volcano mines, collecting walnuts and secret notes for the rest of the night. And an ostrich egg, which I didn't know what to do with that yet. Day 54 started off collecting my shrooms and some hardwood in the secret woods area. I triggered a cutscene with Sam in his house where he drops an egg on the floor and Jody storms into the kitchen. The wheel landed on chat option 3, in which I tell Jody that her son did it on purpose. I actually thought it was hilarious because I caused unnecessary drama between him and his mom. Like, so much unnecessary drama from a lie. I'm like such a liar in this game. On the second to last day of summer, it was raining yet again, so I didn't have to worry about going into town before 3:30. Let me explain. With Haley's Cakewalk request, if you go into town on a sunny day before 3:30 p.m., you'll trigger the cutscene. So I was avoiding going before 3:30 p.m. on a sunny day because I didn't want a negative cutscene because I literally didn't have the cake. This is what I thought. As many of you who are Haley stans are probably laughing at me right now, so I'll let you see how long it took for me to figure out the obvious of this situation. We'll come back to this, but start paying attention to what time it is when I'm walking through town on a sunny day. Later that afternoon, I visited the island, and I had enough walnuts to rebuild the bridge toward the boneyard. I tried to break open the rock, but realized quickly that that wasn't gonna work, so I blew it up with a bomb. A strange man emerged, and turns out he's a professor and is collecting bones and stuff, so I turned a few of them in. I also managed to get these 2 walnuts, but I couldn't figure out the ones above this area just yet. On day 56, the last day of summer, aka the halfway point, I pretty much took this day to continue my paths around the edge of my farm, careful to cover as little as the dirt spots as possible so I could maximize my truffles. That afternoon, I waited patiently for 3:30 so I could take the minecart into town and crack open some geodes with Clint, and hope to find a cake in the mystery box. That evening, I flipped the coin, which said yes, I would be attending the Dance of the Moonlight Jelly event. It was quite beautiful, and Haley stood next to me on the dock. And that was the end of summer. I sold everything I'd been keeping, and I made 526,000 gold to end the season. Here's how I did on my summer gift giving this month, and it's looking pretty grim, not gonna lie. Hey everyone, I just wanted to say that if you made it this far into the video, thank you! I appreciate the time you spent following me on my journey in this coin flipping adventure. If you've enjoyed yourself so far, please like this video as it helps the algorithm find more Stardew loving people like you. And if you want to support me further, consider subscribing. I'll most likely be making a part 3 to finish off this playthrough, and you definitely don't want to miss out on the fun. I'll also be letting you, the audience, have an interesting say in how things will turn out at the end. So if you want to be involved, hit the bell to receive all notifications. Let's continue. Day 57 brought the smell of Fall 1, and with it, a brand new season. My silver-starred wine was ready to be harvested, and I made my way outside to the beautiful landscape, which, by the way, if you didn't know, fall is like my favorite season. I don't know if I mentioned that in my first 100 days, but it is. Anyway, I took care of my crop field and planted all my wildflowers and wild seeds and broccoli that I had found near the end of summer. I presented Sam with a gift to raise his hearts, and at some point I gave Vincent the daily gift, which he hated again. The next day, my greenhouse was ready to harvest, which, if I'm being honest, it was probably ready on day 1, I just forgot. And then I went to the secret woods for some more hardwood, and the coin toss gave me juicy bugs, again, at the community board request, since I didn't finish it the first time, or the second time. I visited Ginger Island and got a cutscene with Leo on the beach where the wheel had me tell him I was just enjoying the waves, which made him think about his shipwreck. The next chat choice had me tell him that I lived in a town full of people, making him feel even more alone. The last chat choice, which landed on Tails, had me call him a bird again, which I think made him even more sad. Willie appears out of nowhere and asks if there's a way to help, which, yes, I mean, we could literally rescue him and take him back to Pelican Town, but we don't. I don't know why, the island's deserted. I foraged around for some more walnuts, and then a strange lady gave me a picture of her long-lost husband. I guess it's not as deserted as I thought, though. The next morning, I took care of my growing dehydrator collection and rummaged for some moss in my greenhouse. I also hit up the quarry and started blowing stuff up again. I finally was able to procure 100 hardwood and fixed up the giant stump just short of my farm, and who would have known, the lights were now on. I gave more people gifts throughout the town, and when I went to Sebastian's room, I got his 2-heart cutscene. The coin decided that I should just leave, which prompted Sebi to tell me to hold up, Then the coin had me ask him about what he's working on, and as if on cue, his mom shows up to confirm that he feels like he isn't taken seriously. For the last chat option, the coin had me ask why he didn't want to see his friends, which his response isn't far off from what I would actually say. Anyway, he liked the sashimi, and the dwarf liked the daily gift as well. The next day, I harvested my many mushrooms first thing in the morning, and then headed over to Ginger Island, where I fished for a little bit, finding a walnut. I also tried to get this little dude out of the sand with all the tools I had, but I wasn't figuring it out today. Caroline was the receiver of the daily gift, and she liked it. Clint had a help wanted request, and the coin landed on heads, so I'd be looking for some coal for our local blacksmith. I literally almost typed bartender when writing this. Can you imagine Clint as a bartender? On day 60, I ventured outside to see some of my wild seeds had turned into eggplants, and then I went down to check on my new raccoon friend to see what he was requesting. I spent most of the day collecting hardwood and foraging until it was after 3:30 p.m., and then I went into town and I got the cutscene with Alex where I'm creeping and overhear his tragic backstory and how he relates to the dog Dusty, which we unfortunately cannot talk to in original Stardew Valley. The coin had me choose no, not really when he asked if I had overheard him, which he seemed pretty relieved about even though it's a complete lie. I tried going over to Clint's, but he wasn't there again. Then later I hit the mines to collect his dang coal and find more fire quartz before calling it a night by passing out. Oh, and I did not give Robin the daily gift. The next day I made my way over to Marnie's and presented Jas with a gift to boost my friendship with her. And then I used the beach totem to bypass the main town area so I wouldn't trigger Haley's cutscene, and I went over to Ginger Island. I donated a few items to the tent professor and rummaged around for different things and fished for a while to get some more walnuts. Within the required amount, I finally built my vacation home, which came loaded with a small kitchen, 3 rooms, and a bed. That evening, I cracked open some geodes and coconuts at Clint's and accepted a help wanted request for Elliot. That night, I was fighting a shadow monster on my farm and literally one swiped away all the mahogany trees I had planted. On day 62, I collected more materials for crafting and upgrading, and I visited the raccoon again, finishing his request for some food. He proceeded to reward me with a lot of broccoli seeds, and he said he was going to go find himself a wife, so now I thought, sweet, I'm almost done with the quest. Yeah. Anyway, I checked on my chicken coop, and to my surprise, it was absolutely full. I left. The stress was too much. I'm glad the animals can still walk around in there though, because I can't. And very, very happily, I raised my skill another level, and I spun the wheel to see what I would get for my second mastery perk. And it was combat mastery. So I chose that and I moved on. The next day it was raining outside, so I watered my coffee plants and then I put the broccoli seeds down. My sunflowers were ready on this day too. Later that morning a train came through Stardew Valley, so I managed to make it there this time, but unfortunately it didn't give me anything. Like, not even a single piece of coal. With a community board request and a coin flip later, I was now doing island ingredients, which would be my first island request that I tried my hand at. I took care of my greenhouse at night, which I realized while editing is like really dark in there. And then of course, I totally failed at giving Gus the daily gift. On day 64, I woke up to a letter in my mail informing me of the upcoming Stardew Valley Fair. Oh, and my dried mushrooms were ready of course. And so were the fruits in my bat cave. Since it was still early, I decided to run over to the desert to go to Skull Cavern when I found my first few trinkets. I equipped the magic quiver, which now sent out attacks when enemies were nearby, which is honestly great for knockback. The next morning, I spent sorting my very full inventory and collected my coffee beans, brewing them in the process. I swear for the better half of this year, I was constantly caffeinated. Then I decided to go into my coop again, this time dealing with the mess I had left a couple days ago. It actually took a long while to pick up all the eggs. I gave Sebastian some sashimi and reviewed my hearts with the villagers, and I still had a ways to go, to be honest. That afternoon, I added the wine and caviar to the lost bundle in the broken down Jojamart, and then I collected some hardwood before heading home. Day 67, I had a lot of wonderful fairy rose flowers that had bloomed, which would make pretty good gifts, and get me a decent amount of money. I also had maple syrup and purple mushrooms ready too. The greenhouse, as you could expect, was ready. I'm probably going to show this less going forward because it's really repetitive. I warped over to the beach and visited Ginger Island, giving a duck feather to Leo, which he loved. While exploring my island farm, I found a strange door that had opened up after building my beach house, and there was a mysterious frog that I talked to. He said to provide him with a sweet delight which is both pink and juicy, and so I knew exactly what I had to do. That night, I decided to rest on the beachside. The next morning, I awoke on the island and took care of my resident slimes and cut down some trees before heading back to Stardew Valley mainland. I finished for a little while to raise my skill, and I harvested some crops on my farm later that afternoon. And can you guess what I did next? Hardwood. And then sashimi. Yep. I'm not saying I was bored at this point, but my daily duties were very similar to reach my goals. I put all the fish in my fridge and went to bed. Day 69, I collected my shrooms and some truffles from my piggies. I realized I had hit 5 hearts with Krobus, which meant I wouldn't have to give him gifts anymore, even though I still wanted to. And I processed a box at Clint's, which gave me the Book of Mysteries, unlocking the ability to find mystery boxes more often, but only after I've claimed the Foraging Mastery, which we very well know I have not done yet. Anyway, Gus's shop didn't have a chocolate cake, which I had been checking quite diligently, and I was slowly beginning to give up hope on having the cake for Haley. The next morning, Mayor Lewis sent me a whopping 500 gold in the mail because he appreciated me coming to town and raising his GDP. Thanks. Predictably, I had plucked my shrooms, and fun fact, I had been carrying a pink cake in my inventory in the event that I accidentally stumbled into town before 3:30 on a clear day. I don't know why, but I thought maybe it'd help. Later, I visited the raccoons that had more requests for coconut jelly and dried cranberries. I gave Kent the daily gift, and then I went to the island, trying to find more walnuts and how to get walnuts, unsuccessfully, I may add. And I played the colored crystal game, finally beating it this time. On day 71, I cut down a mahogany tree and found the source of my nighttime sound event. And I also harvested plenty of sunflowers, and what I love about sunflowers is that they give you seeds back. It's literally a win-win. And Haley loves them, so it's a win-win-win. I headed down to the beach to visit the island so I could plant more island crops that I had randomly gotten. I also checked out the mushroom room again, and I still couldn't figure out what to do with it. Back in the valley, the coin landed on Tails for the community board, and Robin wanted me to get 1,000 pieces of wood. Yikes. Oh, and I tried to give Haley, my wife, the one that lives with me, the daily gift, and she was already asleep, so I failed. That's probably the worst failure I've had at a daily gift this entire playthrough. The next day was early morning of the Stardew Valley Fair. I flipped the coin and it landed on heads, so yes, I would be attending. I walked into town soon after I took care of my normal duties, and I placed all my items into the bin to compete against Pierre, Marnie, and Willie. Also, I learned that with the 1.6 update, festivals are set up differently in offset years. So Gus's barbecue spot is now over by Pam's house, and the animal pens are now over by the community center. I also found the dwarf hiding in the corner over here, which was new. I spoke with the mystic, who saw me giving Robin a birthday gift, and Haley and I frolicking in the grass. I got my Grange judged, and I won first place with a score of 107. I collected my stuff and took a few spins at the wheel game, failing pretty miserably, so I just decided to use my earnings for the prize ticket and call it a day. On day 73, I harvested a bunch of goodies on my farm and took care of some extra trees that had grown in. I turned in my prize ticket from the fair and received a really nice cow decoration that I placed above my and Haley's bed. And last minute, I decided to gather some hardwood and work on my paths on the farm before calling it a night. I awoke to Haley declaring she had made me breakfast, which was just a simple piece of bread. I mean, I can't complain here. I made my way down to the island and planted some more seeds and gave Leo a duck feather. I also explored the volcano a bit more and I found a secret exit and received 2 walnuts. With these additions to my balance, I was able to unlock the island trader and check out his wares, so I bought a lot of tubers. And then I hit the volcano mines pretty hard to gain some XP and items until I passed out. The next morning, I expanded my island cropland and planted the tubers. Tried giving Leo another gift, but I had received my weekly limit, so I went back to Stardew Valley. I presented some villagers with more gifts and harvested some crops late at night. Day 76, I spent the morning collecting my foraging-related items, and then I went south of the valley to chop down loads of trees for Robin's request. Then I pet my animals and checked how close I was to leveling up my skill. I cracked open some geodes and mystery boxes with Clint. Still did not receive a chocolate cake from these, unfortunately. Later that evening, I cut down more trees so I could finish the board request. I also dropped off one of the items to the raccoon couple as well, and I was still waiting on the dried cranberries. The next morning, I had a lot of purple mushrooms ready, and I gotta say, this was not part of my tree/foraging experience that I had expected, but I was pleased. At Mayor Lewis's house, I got some free geodes, and then up by the mountain, I got Sebastian's 4th heart cutscene where he's fixing up his motorcycle. The wheel had me choose chat option 3, which I told him I was scared. Which is another lie. I'm not scared of anything. Anyway, he said he'd take me on a ride someday. Yeah, we'll see. I went into the mines for some more materials and dropped off a gift at the dwarf before calling it a night. On day 78, Linus sent me a catfish in the mail, and I had plenty of dried mushrooms and sunflowers ready to harvest. I also upgraded my path down over by my secondary mushroom log area. That night, I fished in my own pond and battled some nasty monsters. I know I haven't covered this that much, but the farm mobs get much more difficult as you progress through the game. Next morning, my broccolis were ready, and in town, the coin chose juicy bugs. again, for the community board request. I waited for Harvey's shop to open patiently, and then I got a cutscene with him where he informed me I had not been there for a checkup yet. The chat wheel had me choose that I was feeling a little nervous, which he was very chill about. After he proceeded to check me out, I gave him a coffee that he loved for the daily gift. And I also drank a coffee too, and sped out of there. On Ginger Island, I planted a new banana tree and cracked open some beach geodes, and other rocks and bones. I was able to submit another bone, and then I made my way back to town. Balancing the island in main Stardew Valley is actually pretty difficult. The next morning, I sold a few crops and checked on my growing jelly collection. I also had managed to level up my skill again, so I headed over to the dreaded Mastery Cave, manifesting the foraging mastery, hoping the wheel would finally do me right. It didn't. The wheel landed on fishing mastery. Ugh. So I received a new advanced iridium rod, which is actually pretty cool because you can have 2 lures on it at the same time. Later that afternoon, I chopped down my mahogany tree farm to gain tons of hardwood, and also cleared out some spare trees by my mushroom log farm. I expanded my pathway again and called it a night. Oh, and I definitely forgot to give Caroline the daily gift. On day 81, it was raining and I collected plenty of my crops that were ready, along with my many mushrooms. I put together a set of gems and a void essence for a massive gift-giving day, and then I ran into Abigail on the mountain playing her flute. The wheel had me choose chat option 3 when Abigail asked me why I was out in the rain. Yeah, Abigail, why are you out in the rain? Then we jammed out, which was pretty fun. That night, I placed more mushroom logs on the farm. The next morning, I had a piece of mail in my box from Mayor Lewis, informing me of their Halloween event tomorrow night. I checked the traveling cart woman for a chocolate cake, which I had been doing quite frequently, and gave the wizard a gift for the day. I was reviewing my friendship tracking, and I still had quite a ways to go, but I was confident I could get it done by winter. By noontime, I was collecting my exorbitant amount of eggs, and then I headed over to the desert to take a breather. Man, it was exhausting running this farm. I also gave Sandy a gift and headed back to the valley to run a few errands, chopped down more mahogany trees, and crafted more preserve jars for outside. On day 27, I started off by getting my coffee beans and picking up my mushrooms. I headed up to Robin's, buying a few pieces of wood from her, and I decided to order a shed. I placed it right above my mushroom log section, and then I did a few daily activities. Since I couldn't walk into town because the Halloween maze was being set up, I warped over to the beach so I could make some progress on Ginger Island, including getting a couple golden walnuts. I also took the time to plant the rare seeds for the frog in the cave and finish the frog portion for the professor. He gave me a walnut for it, which is nice. Back in Stardew, I flipped a coin that said I would be attending the festival. I went through the maze, which is arguably a lot harder than year 1, as I was sort of confused on where to go. Concerned Ape definitely did a good job on this one. I reached the end and received a prize ticket, which is like 10 times more useful than the golden pumpkin. Then later that night, when we went to bed, Haley asked me if we should adopt a baby. So I flipped the coin, and it said no. Unfortunately, but I was hopeful that this wouldn't be the last time. On the last day of fall, I gave Haley a kiss in the morning to let her know that maybe someday we could discuss children again, and I got straight to work. I crafted 2 mini obelisks and placed one near my house and one down by my soon-to-be shed, so that way I could go easily from my mushroom farm and back to the house quicker than ever before. I was also finally able to provide the raccoon couple with the dried cranberries, and they rewarded me with the raccoon journal and expanded their shop. I gave Jazz a fairy rose, which is her favorite, and she loved it. I provided my buddy Krobus with the daily gift, and I turned in my prize ticket, which gave me 4 more beehives. Score. I cracked open some golden coconuts and geodes at Clint's and got a mango sapling, and then I finally made my way to the secret area to the east of town, unlocking the alleyway buffet. I added some dinosaur mayonnaise to the lost bundle and broken down Jojamart, and then I went through all my items to sell. I watched my animals head into the barn for the last time this year and closed up their gates. In my 3rd month, I had made just over 650,000 gold. On the first day of winter, I reviewed my current funds. I had 1.6 million in my pocket and had a total of 2,617,725 gold, which meant I was hopefully going to hit my mark of just over 3 million gold. And as on most first days, I collected my mushrooms, which I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I feel like they shouldn't grow in winter. Like, I'm not gonna lie, to me it just doesn't make sense. I don't know, but I'm glad they are because I need money, so I'm not gonna complain any further. That morning, I moved my dehydrators into my newly constructed shed, and the coin had selected Fragments of the Past quest from the community board. To start off winter right, I gave Jas the daily gift and then made my way down to the island, collecting some of my crops, giving Leo a gift, and then crashing out in my vacation home. Day 86, I took care of my farm, and then I fished for a little bit at the beach. Later, I had a cutscene with Leo by the volcano where he squawked at me. He asked me if I thought he was weird, and the chat wheel had me squawk back at him. Then he asked if he could be a normal kid again, and the chat wheel gave me option 2, which was no. he couldn't. Oh my god, I hate this wheel sometimes. Evelyn loved her daily gift, and that afternoon I took care of my greenhouse fruits and jellies, chopped down some trees, and collected my dried mushrooms that evening. I then went on a bone hunting spree in the caverns and called it a night. The next morning, I took time to decide which tool I'd be upgrading next at Clint's, and then I waited patiently for Marnie's to open so that way I could purchase the animal catalog and 2 auto grabbers, so I wouldn't have to worry about that egg problem anymore. I also purchased a cat tree for my kitty, and then I went and upgraded my hoe to copper at Clint's. Okay, so when I left the blacksmith's, I saw Sam walking, and then Elliot right after him, and my brain went, oh look, it's Sam! Elliot! Haha! And I just wanted to tell you guys that because I've literally never had this thought before in this game with Sam and Elliot as their names together or separate, but it made me laugh out loud while I was playing. Later that afternoon, I walked into Pierre's shop and got the 4-heart cutscene with Harvey, who was taking part in the all-women's aerobics class. He was adamant that I told nobody I saw him there. The coin disagreed and said I couldn't promise that, which he wasn't happy about. And what's neat is after the cutscene, I spoke with Jody, who claimed there was a new guy in class who told him to swear not to tell anyone. Oh, and she liked the daily gift as well. That night, I went to the volcano mines and passed out at 2 a.m. after fighting some flying fireballs. Day 88, it was raining on the island. I planted the new mango tree I had cracked open, and then went back to the valley and collected my products. I redeemed a prize ticket for some diamonds, which would make some pretty decent gifts, and then I got a cutscene with Shane, or maybe it's Clint's cutscene, I actually don't know, but Shane's creating a Joja commercial. Which is weird, because Joja Mart is gone, and he doesn't work there anymore. And anyway, Clint is really awkward since it's a romantic-ish scene with Emily. I don't remember how I helped with this, to be honest. Anyway, later I hit the mines for some XP and potential fire quartz and went to bed, where Haley asked me again if we should adopt a baby. The coin finally said yes by landing on heads, and I was soon to be a mother, which is terrifying. On day 89, I crafted a couple of bone grinder things, which honestly was really useful to get rid of all these extra bones I kept digging up that I couldn't donate or sell. I had some maple syrup and my mushrooms ready too. I gave Demetrius the daily gift of a sunflower, and he really liked it, so that was a win. Then I forged a bit on the beach and made my rounds on a Friday night at the saloon, where half the town shows up. It's a good time and place to give out a massive quantity of gifts, I'll say that. I provided the wizard with his desired iridium bar, which gave me 5,000 gold. A pretty decent quest, honestly. The next morning, I waited patiently for Clint to open his shop, and I received my copper hoe. I then set my watering can to get upgraded to steel, and of course, I ended up planting winter seeds, but I couldn't water them. And apparently, you can't plant mixed seeds in winter. Later, I tended to my island crops and planted a few new ones, including another mango tree. Oh, and I was supposed to give Sandy the daily gift, but that did not happen. Day 91, I walked outside to receive some stones from George in the mail as a gift, and Mayor Lewis reminded me of the upcoming ice festival. I grabbed my second batch of maple syrup and admired my growing jelly collection. I visited the raccoon family. To my surprise and horror, they wanted more stuff. And now I was really starting to get worried that I wasn't going to finish their quest line in time. But luckily these items were very easy to get because I literally make dried mushrooms every single day. For the rest of the night, I went to the caves to find more fire quartz. The next day, I collected my fruits and jellies in my greenhouse and continued to push out mushrooms. I flipped the coin, which landed on heads, meaning I would be attending this year's festival. I bought a Christmas tree for me and Haley's first Christmas together, and I placed it in the front entry of my home. The next morning on day 93, I provided Alex with the daily gift right off the bat. He also told me that at first he was jealous that Haley and I got married, but now he was okay with it. I actually found this dialogue to be a mix of interesting and funny. Glad we're cool, bro. The coin toss landed on heads, which meant I'd be choosing Juicy Bugs. Again, I swear for like the 4th or 5th time this year. How did I not realize this when I was playing? I have no clue. I took a trip over to the desert and provided Sandy with a gift that she loved and then fell down some holes in Skull Cavern. I warped home near 2 a.m. and made it in time to put everything away and get to bed. On day 94, Haley informed me that she took care of some of the farm duties in the morning, which was nice. I quickly made my way down south of the valley and dropped off the 2 newest items for the raccoon family. He gave me a raccoon hat as a present, and I instantly wore it since it's so fitting for the season. But, like, okay, where did he get this from? Like, seriously. Unless if it's faux fur, I'm not sure, and even still, isn't it in poor taste? Should I be worried? I gave Vincent a coconut, which he finally didn't hate something that I gave him, but I was still at 3 hearts, so I really had to hustle his friendship. Clint was finished with my steel watering can, and then I went up to the Witch's Swamp to catch me a void salmon for the non-Joja Mart Lost Bundle. I cracked open several things with Clint, also earning me a golden helmet, which was cool, and then I dropped off the salmon and a prismatic shard, completing the abandoned Joja Mart bundle. The little Junimo was very pleased as he had been left behind, which I didn't realize this, so it like broke my heart, but I'm glad I helped the little guy out. That evening I reviewed my friendship levels and I still needed Leo, Dwarf, Sandy, and Vincent to get to level 5. This, I thought, was doable. On day 95, Haley was once again outside and she said she spent the morning repairing fences, which honestly is a huge win for me because everything else is taken care of automatically except the fences. Mary Lewis gave me another 500 gold for my contribution to Stardew Valley's agricultural sect as well. I placed down new dehydrators in my shed, and then when I went to Marnie's to buy more hay, I got a cutscene with Marnie and Shane. Marnie says Shane looks really happy, and then he presents Jazz with a present that she loves. Honestly, glad I'm able to help a guy out and change his life around. Later that day, I visited the bookseller and purchased some books that I hadn't read before and some to increase my skill. Though, not by a lot, so I don't recommend, it's not worth it. That afternoon, I got a cutscene with Maru at her clinic job where I scare her by entering and she drops a patient sample. The wheel had me choose chat option 2, where we tell Harvey it was my fault, and she is literally so fast to agree. She's like, yep, I'll tell him it was your fault. Harvey comes to the lobby and she says I slammed the door so loud she dropped the sample. Which, I mean, honestly, she could have said I purposefully grabbed it from her and threw it on the ground or something. I feel like that makes more my fault than what she goes with, but okay. Harvey doesn't have it and says she needs to not blame people for her own mistakes. Whoops. Later that day, I visited the island and presented Leo with a present for the night. The next day, I did my daily activities and tried going to Clint's, but he apparently wasn't working today. Pam wasn't available to drive me to the desert, so I read her lovely personalized note and decided to drive myself. Thanks. Sandy liked my present and told me her name isn't even Sandy, but what is it, really? I hit up Skull Cavern for a while and then I passed out at 2 a.m. Day 97, I confronted Haley, who said our adoption papers were in progress and soon we'd receive the baby. My mushrooms are ready again, and honestly at this point, I was really wondering how many of these I've collected in total. On the island, I gave Leo some mayonnaise, which he did like, and now the only 2 people I needed to befriend still was Sandy and Vincent. I fished later that evening during Squid Fest, which I then realized is why Pam may not have been at the bus stop the day before, and I collected my rewards, which included a cool squid hat. On day 98, I harvested my powdermelon plants and sold them instantly. At Clint's, I selected my hoe to get upgraded to steel. I know I haven't said this specifically, but upgrading all my tools was like a last-minute goal for this year. Funny how I always manage to throw something into the mix. At the movie theater, I flipped a coin when it asked if I wanted to go see a movie, and the coin said yes, so I purchased a ticket to give to Haley. Later, I gave Sandy a gift and visited the casino again. Still not having much luck though. That evening, I cut down some trees and created another large chest. I wasted too much time though because I gave Haley the ticket at 8:30, hoping to catch a movie with her. I even busted out a new outfit for our date, but by the time I got over to the movies, the place was closed. I mean, I guess I forgot this is a small town and they roll up the sidewalks at like 8 p.m. Oh, and I didn't give Clint the daily gift, which is so stupid because I was literally at the saloon earlier. Day 99 began like normal with coffee beans and smelted bars. It was a good luck day, so I threw all my unnecessary tools in the chest and packed my mining gear. In town, I selected a new board request, and then I gave Vincent a gift he loved, cranberry candy, which I actually had to like craft this in my kitchen for this kid, but it worked and I had 4 hearts with him now. Later that morning, I drank a monster musk and some luck items and dove straight into the caverns to gain all that sweet XP. I also found a few goodies along the way too, including 2 mystery chest rooms back to back. I decided to head back early though and equip my new green frog friend to follow me around. Day 100, a milestone to hit. I spent the early morning organizing a few things and petting my animals. I gave Evelyn the daily gift, which she loved. Clint wasn't to be found, of course, and then I went back to the movies and purchased another ticket. Haley agreed for another date night and I was ready to go. By noon, we had made our way into the lobby, and the concessions lady gave me the option to choose a snack for my date. And I wasn't sure what Haley would like, and I couldn't find any hints in my secret notes, so I decided on popcorn. Given that this was a shop and not a chat option, I didn't spin the wheel. But looking back, that probably would have been more fun. So the movie starts, and it's a Christmas movie about the Winter Star. Haley likes her chocolate popcorn, which is a win in my books. After the film, I spoke to Haley, and she really liked the movie. Later that evening, I hit the mines for a little bit, and then went to bed early. The next morning, I collected some more smelted bars, and then visited the greenhouse again. My daily set of mushrooms were ready, and I added more dehydrators to the shed. I retrieved my steel hoe, and I set my watering can to get upgraded to gold. I blew up a bunch of rocks and ore at the quarry, which leveled up my skill, and now I was finally choosing my next mastery skill. Since it was the last 2, I flipped the coin, and it landed on heads, which meant I'd be choosing the foraging mastery. Finally. It only took me like 4 times to get this. I was ecstatic though, so I tore down all the mahogany trees I'd placed earlier that day and put down as many mystic trees as I could. On day 102, Mayor Lewis had sent me my secret Santa, which was Jody, who was pretty easy to shop for. I collected my shrooms and added more dehydrators, then pet my chickens, and was so glad that I had that dang auto grabber. Later I went to Ginger Island and harvested crops, gaining another walnut. I'm gonna be honest guys, Ginger Island was a lot harder than I thought it would be. I had finally gained enough walnuts and I unlocked the elevator system so I could traverse through the island much faster now. I also found my first golden mystery box. I presented the banana to the very obvious banana box, which provided me with 3 walnuts. In the evening, I was able to give Emily the daily gift, and then later that night, I collected more jellies and organized my stuff. After I went to bed, the adoption agency dropped off the baby in the middle of the night. I did a random name generator, and I got Jasper Croft, which is sort of fitting for how my farm began its origins of dark Halloweenish. The next morning, I gave my sea cucumbers some aquamarines, and then I did my daily duties. I spoke to the raccoon family, which had added another member, and saw that this time they wanted winter root juice and a pickled Cape carrot, which honestly wouldn't be too hard to get. I provided Gus with a coconut he had requested, and after looking around town for Emily, I found her at the community center and gave her the daily gift. The next morning, I said hello to the new baby, which I think I actually forgot to go look at him on his first day. Oops. Clint was done with my watering can, so I sent my axe to get upgraded to gold and cracked open a few mystery boxes with him. At the quarry, I decided to start planting some maple trees so I could use this area as a resource. And Demetrius did love the daily gift. I noticed on my relationship tab that Jasper Croft was at 0 hearts, but honestly, I am not counting the baby that shows up a week before the end of the year. I'm not doing it. That night, I cooked more cranberry candy for Vincent and then checked on my animals before bed. Demetrius sent me a new recipe in the mail, and I collected some bones from my chest to process into fertilizer. I've been doing this for a while now, each day, and it was really useful. I collected my mushrooms and visited Jody's house to provide her son with a sugar rush. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to raise him at 5 hearts just yet. On the island, I started picking my sweet gem berries before I remembered I needed to present it to the frog in the cave. So I quickly stopped at my last one, and I ran inside to tell him I had something to show him. Now let me tell you, when we got outside, we were standing between my melon plant, not the sweet gemberry, and I had this realization that he was talking about the melon the entire time, not the sweet gemberry. It's lucky I had it ready to harvest, but it made me laugh so much about how wrong I was. It's a miracle I had this happen in a positive light. Anyway, after that, he gave me some walnuts and then asked me to show him another crop, which I am fairly confident is wheat, so that'll be coming up sometime soon. Later, I tried again to find a way to get this walnut, and it dawned on me that there might be a way to get there from the top. And I was right. So that felt really good to get that one. Though I kind of felt dumb too for how many times I looked over here and didn't think about it. I tried my hand at the anvil and editing my trinkets, which worked fairly well. At the community board request, the coin landed on heads, which meant I'd be doing juicy bugs again. I picked up my gold axe at Clint's and then cracked open some geodes, finding more useful island stuff. At Gunther's, I went through all the notes and found this weird one. I actually saw a TikTok about it, so I wanted to try figuring out the rest of these weird riddles. The first one I found in the saloon, which is the one from the video, and I retrieved Pinky Lemon, a cursed Stardew Valley object. And honestly, I always wondered what this box did, so I'm grateful to have learned this info. I gave Vincent his candy again and saw that I'd finally gotten to 5 hearts, which meant I had finished this part of my challenge. That night, I spent a good amount of time trying to figure out how to get into this fenced area, and I finally was able to get in and retrieve HMTGF. I went home and placed both of these cursed items in Jasper Croft's room to keep him company. On day 107, I collected my coffee beans and headed out to do my morning routine. I made my way down to the south of the valley to give the raccoon family the juices they desired. In return, he gave me some fairy dust and informed me that they would indeed be adding another family member. Later, I went and brought a strange bun to Vincent's toy chest and obtained a Foragumon statue. I wonder if Jody knew her son had this monstrosity in his bedroom. On the island, my banana trees were starting to produce regularly, and I planted more seeds. I also planted the wheat seeds in hopes that this is what the frog wanted. Back on the main farm, I added the new cursed item in my son's room with the rest of the set. I made a path to the fruit cave for obvious reasons, and I added more tiles down by my shed. The next morning, I had mail reminding me that the Winter Star Festival was the next day. I said good morning to my animals, and I started going through my obtained and sold items. I headed over to the island and ran through the volcano caves for a bit, and then headed back to town, where you could see the moonlight jellies. I wonder if these seasons are flip-flopped, sort of like the northern and southern hemispheres in real life. On day 109, I said good morning to Haley outside the house and proceeded to harvest all my items that were ready. I plucked what I figured would be my last batch of mushrooms for the year as well, and continued to maintain the dehydrators. Unfortunately, I flipped the coin and it landed on tails, which meant I would not be going to the Winter Star Festival. So, sorry Jody, but you are giftless this year. The next day, I visited the traveling cart woman and bought a rabbit's foot and proceeded to present it to the strange man in the truck, which I'm surprised it took me so long to do this, but my luck was permanently increased. I spent the rest of the day in the mines with my new pink fairy trinket that heals often, which is sweet. I also obtained the Savage Ring from the guild, and then I checked on Linus to find him toasty in his tent. Then I gave Leah the daily gift. After that, I called it a night. On day 111, I started by retrieving my dried shrooms, and then I bought a little bit more hay from Marnie since winter was almost over. I retrieved my gold hoe from Clint and went and upgraded my watering can to iridium, perfect right before spring. On the island, I harvested many crops that had grown in, and I accidentally swiped away my wheat, so whoops, that's not gonna happen right now. I took the Savage Ring and the Vampire Ring to the top of the volcano and combined them, along with my Glow Ring and Magnetic Ring, so I had the properties of 4 rings in 2. I presented Abigail with the daily gift, which I didn't really have anything she loved, so luckily the ginger root was sufficient enough. On day 112, the last day of winter and the last day of this year, I harvested what I could from my farm, which was only a few maple syrups, as the mushrooms and fruits were not ready. I collected pretty much everything I had one chest at a time and sold it first thing in the morning so I wouldn't forget. I cracked open some geodes at Clint's, and by the way, if you're wondering what I did with all those gems I couldn't use or sell, I literally just made a chest for them all next to my house. I spent some time going through my secret notes and decided to hang out at the playground until noon, exactly on the last day of winter. I obtained the giant cute stuffed Junimo decoration. Love this thing. Also took time to do the treasure hunt notes where you have to walk in certain directions because I never remember exactly where these things are. I got the gold Lewis statue and then I dropped off a present at the Wizards for the daily gift. It was late, so I decided to flip a coin on if I should put the Lewis statue in town or if I should put it in his house. The coin landed on tails, so I set it down in front of his room. He didn't seem to care just yet, so we'll see. I placed my Junimo plush down and went to sleep for the last time. My total revenue for winter was 773,025 gold. Now that that's all over, let's see how I did on my goals. I did make 5 times the amount of gold I made in year 1, which is including year 1's revenue. I ended up with my total earnings of 3,538,195 gold, just over 500,000 over the amount that I needed, which is great. I was able to get everyone to at least 5 hearts. That's actually really great for me as well. My gift giving percentage was 63%, and I thought I was doing good too. I was not. I unfortunately did not finish the raccoon storyline, which was a lot longer than I thought, and maybe I could have started it a lot earlier too, and that would have fixed this problem. I didn't enter Mr. Chi's place on the island, but I did enter his casino in the desert, so I'm not sure if I should count this one as half. I think I will though, because I actually wasn't very specific when I made this goal. I did not finish Ginger Island, which I've never done before, and that was really pushing my luck there on whether or not I'd be able to do that. So that's my fault, 100% my fault. So that leaves me at 2.5 out of 6 goals, which is honestly really terrible, even worse than year 1. As for my thoughts on this playthrough, I think this route makes great money. My only gripe is that it takes a lot of tending to convert mushrooms to dried mushrooms. Now, if I had the same amount of dehydrators that I did mushroom logs, I'd only have to work on it roughly every 4 days, so I think it's possible that it could be a fairly low maintenance moneymaker. Going forward with Mystic Trees is going to be huge for me as well, and that will also take a long time to craft and plant them. But I have all of year 3 to figure that out. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe, as it really helps my channel. Let me know down in the comments what you want to see next too. I'm excited to do year 3, and I think I will do a couple of lives so you guys can watch me struggle in real time, so stay tuned. I will see you guys in the next one.